So today we are going to learn about few concepts in Java. One is ArrayList, and second one is HashMap, and then JDBC. Okay. So first concept is ArrayList. ArrayList. So in Java, at the beginning, I told you two things like there are two types of data types. One is a primitive and a derived data types. So under primitive data types, with all integer, double, or character, boolean. So these are all comes under the primitive data types, right? So when you come to the derived data types like ArrayList, HashMap, or comes under the derived data types. So these are also called as a collections in Java. We can call as a derived data types. Derived data types, or these are also called as a collections. So under this ArrayList and HashMap will come into picture. So now what is an ArrayList? So let's discuss about ArrayList. What is an ArrayList? So if you want to store multiple values into a single variable, we used arrays earlier, right? So if I create an array variable like this, and here I say new int of a, if I say 5 here, I can store 5 elements, or I can store 5 values inside the array. Okay. And what are the limitations we have in this? Can anyone tell what are the limitations we have in array? There are two limitations I told you in normal array. So there are two limitations. Can anyone tell what are the two limitations in normal array? So in normal array, array size is fixed. Yes. So here array size is fixed. We cannot store more than this element. 5 is a maximum size. We can store only 5 elements. There is a one issue. The other one is we can store only same data type of elements. We cannot store multiple type of elements. That is another problem. Okay. So here array contains a same kind of elements. We cannot store multiple type of elements. And second thing is array is a fixed. So fixed size. We cannot store more than a fixed length. So to overcome these two problems, so we have an array list. So in array list, we can overcome these two problems. So let us say how we can work with an array list, how we can store values and all. So here, we have certain operations we can do an array list. Let's see what are those operations we can do. So let's say array list. Array list is also similar to like an array, but the thing is in array list we can store different kinds of elements and there is no limit. Okay, we can store any number of elements. Let's see what are the different operations we can perform on array list. Operations on array list. So first we will see how to declare array list. That's the first thing, and then how to add elements or values to array list. That's the second thing. And we can also once we have the values in array list, we can find how many values we have in this array list. Okay, how to find size of array list. This is the next action, and then we can read the values from array list. We can read values from array list. So how to declare an array list and how to add elements or values into array list, and find the size of an array list means how many elements we have, we can find out, and then read the values from array list. So these are the operations we can do, and I'll also show you remove the values from array list. If you want to remove some values from array list, we can still remove it. Remove elements or values from array list. Okay, so let's see these operations. How to declare an array list, how to add elements to the array list, how to find the size of array list, and how to read the values, and how to remove elements from the array list. So here I'm going to create a new package for today. So new package day 10. Okay, so under day 10 I'm going to create a new class. I will name it as a ArrayList demo. ArrayList demo. Let's take main method. So here ArrayList we can declare in two different ways. ArrayList can be declared in two different ways. One is, suppose if you want to store same kind of elements, or suppose I want to store only integers in ArrayList, or if you want to store only strings in ArrayList, we have one syntax. Suppose if you want to store any kind of element, any data type of element, there is another syntax. Okay, I'll tell you both the things. So the first thing is how to declare ArrayList. How to declare ArrayList. So we have two ways to declare an ArrayList. So let me just show you. Suppose if you want to store a same kind of elements in ArrayList, we have to follow this syntax. ArrayList and give some name, list equal to new ArrayList. Okay, and here this particular syntax, look, we need to import this ArrayList from java.util package. These are predefined packages. Okay, now this is one flavor, and this is one kind of declaration part. So in this declaration we can store any kind of element or any data type of element. We can store any type of element or elements. So this is the one declaration. This is a generic way of declaration. We can store any kind of element like string, integer, boolean, characters, anything. And there is one more syntax. For example, if I want to store only specific element and very specific data type of element, and then I can write like this: ArrayList, and the list is equal to new ArrayList. See, all collections like ArrayList, HashMap, or predefined classes in Java. So if I create a new class, so we will create an object and we can access those methods, right? Similarly, ArrayList is also a predefined class in Java. So we are creating an object, and through object we are able to access the classes we are able to access the methods which are present inside the ArrayList class. So that's how we are creating like this. So ArrayList list is equal to a new ArrayList. Okay, so here additionally what we need to do is we need to add a data type here. Okay, so here in angular brackets, here I must specify the type, here string, and in angular braces we need to also specify string. So now what happens is this can be stored string values. So this array list can store string values. Suppose I want to store only integers, then we need to write syntax like this. This will store only strings. And suppose instead of string I want to store only numbers, then I need to say integer. This is how I need to write. We should not say normal int like this. Okay, we should say integer like this. These are again class integer, and here also we need to add integer. Okay, so similarly we have a double, we have a character, something like this, we have a boolean, all are uppercase letters because this integer is a class. Okay, so this is a one more syntax we have to store same kind of elements. Okay, the first one can store any kind of element, any type of element, and second syntax we use to store only specific type of elements. Okay, so I'll just recommend this. So for now let's follow this one. Okay, now this is array list can contains only strings. Now I will do certain operations. So according to your requirement, just you can follow either this one, or this one. So better to go for this one because it can hold all kinds of elements. If you want to store only same elements, we can store it, or different elements, we can still store it. So in both the ways, it will be preferable. Okay, the first one. Now let's go for the second one. So here I have created one array list of string type. This is a declaration. So different ways we can declare. And then let's see how to add elements or values to array list. So if you want to add values to array list, we have to make use of methods which are present in ArrayList class. So let's see what are all those methods. For now, I'll make use of it. So these are many ways declaration should happen. So I just noted everything. So the next thing is adding values to ArrayList. How to add values to ArrayList. So if you want to add values to ArrayList, we have a method called as add. Add is a method. So how to use list dot add. Okay, this is the method. List is an object we created, dot add, and here we can directly specify the value. So currently this array is specified with a string type, so I can just write here as some strings, let's say some John, some naming. I have to give you like this, and this element is added. Similarly, I can also add a few more elements. Okay, 3-4 elements. So here I can say elements can be same, duplicates are allowed. Okay, duplicate values also can be allowed. I'll just say different names, and David, and let's say Scott, and I'll just say Smith. Okay, so now I have added 4 values. You can also add different values here if you follow this particular syntax. Okay, but here I said only string, so that's the reason I added only strings here. So by using add method, we can just add all the values into array list. So there is no limit. So you can just add as much as possible. Okay, based upon your requirement. Now, suppose if I want to find how many elements I have stored in this array list. How many elements I have stored in this array list. If I want to find out, because that is required when you are writing any looping statement, because you need to know the limit, right? So how to find this limit or size of this array list? So size of array list. So we have a simple function called as a size. List dot size. So this will return the integer value. So that means a size of a array list. How many elements we have stored in the array list. So the value will be returned by this method. List dot size. And I'll put this in directly in system.out.println. This will print size of a array list. Let me just put here. Okay, this will print a size of array list. So first one, this is declaration and adding values to array list by using add method, and by using size method we can just find the size of array list. Okay, let's run this now. Till now I have just run this, and now it's giving 4, means they have 4 values have been added here. So that's the reason the size is written 4. So this will return 4. Okay, so now we have seen how to declare array, how to add the elements, and how to find size of an array. Now we can also remove elements from an array list. So we'll see read later. So we can also remove elements from array list. Specific values we can remove from array list. So let us see how we can remove elements from array list. Okay, so go here. So I want to remove specific elements from array list. So here 4 values we have, right? So we need to provide index number. So based upon the index, we can remove specific value from array list. So let me just show. So here there are 4 elements, right? So after that, what I can do is just remove element. Remove an element. So how to remove an element? List dot remove. This is a method. Okay, remove. And here we need to specify the index number. So based on the index number, we can remove certain value. So for example, let's see 2 here. I'll just say 2. And after removing the second element, again I will find out the size. So this time, first time it returns 4. So here I removed one element. In the second place, whichever element we have, so that element will be removed. Okay, so and then it will give you the size here. Let's see what the size. And one more thing. Okay, so here we have find out the size. Now I will also print these elements. So if you want to print these elements, I can just write a statement system.out.println. Okay, so here I'll just say object name list. So this will print all the values one after another. Okay, so again same thing I will write here. After removing the element, what is the size and what are the elements we have. So here I will write some message before removing elements. This is a value. So here after removing, I am finding the size and also I'll print those values here. So after removing elements. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, now you can see here the first initially we have 4 elements, so here it is printed 4, and then all 4 options are printed. So before removing elements we have John, David, Scott and Smith. These are the 4 elements we have stored. Okay, so and one second, user Urasi asking question, do we have a method list the elements? Yes. Okay, so this is the method. So here I have written, right? So just list, specify the object name, that's it. It will give you all the elements from the array list. Okay, so if I give a list here, it will print all the elements. See here as a set, it will print everything. Okay, and then after removing this element, okay, then I have again find the size. Now it returns 3 because one element is removed from this list. And what are the rest of the elements after removing? So it giving John, David and Smith. So which is the element I have removed? 2 I have removed, mean based upon the index. So here John index is 0 and David index is 1 and Scott index is 2 and Smith index is 3 index. Start from 0. So when I say 2 here, this represents the index number. Okay, so in the 2 we have a Scott, so that is removed. Now what are the rest of elements we have? John, David and Smith. So John, David and Smith have been printed here. Okay, so now we have discussed about how to declare array list, how to add the elements, and how to find the size of an element, how to find the size of an array list. Then also we have printed complete list of array list, right? And then we have removed also. So we have removed some element by providing the index number. Okay, and one more thing also we can do here, we can also insert elements in the middle. Suppose we have 3 elements, right? Somewhere in the middle I want to insert a value or I want to add a new value. We can also do that. Let me write it here. Insert a new value, or we can insert a new element in the middle of array list. So this is also we can do that. So for example here, so currently I have 4 here, and then I have printed size here, it returns 4, and it is printed all the 4 elements, John, David, Scott, Smith, and then I have removed one element here. What is that element? Scott is removed. So this will remove Scott. So it removes Scott, and then after removing I printed again size, it returns 3, and now currently in the array list we have only 3 values. When I reach it here, we have only John, David and Smith, only 3. Now I want to add a new element after John. So between John and David I want to add one more element. Okay, so if you want to add a new element, we can do that. Like this is insertion, inserting a new element into array list. So if you want to insert a new element in array list, we can write list.add, same method, add method used to adding the elements in the beginning, right? So here again we need to add the same, but here we have another syntax. Dot add, same method, but we can pass two parameters here. Add of, here we need to say index number, comma, the value. Suppose where I want to add, so after John, between John and David. So John index is 0, David index is 1. So I want to add an element in the first place, and I will just say one more name, John, David, Scott. Here I'll say a different name like Scott 2. Okay, some name. So now what happens is, in the same place, index number 1 place, in this place, the Scott 2 will be inserted in the middle. But rest of the values will be just go one side. Okay, so after inserting this, again I will print the list. I will find out the size, and also I will print a complete list. I'll copy here. After inserting the element. After inserting an element. Okay, now we find the list here. So again it becomes 4 here, because we already here by when I reaching here, this is 3 now. So after inserting one more, it should become 4. So here my expectation is 4. And after inserting the elements, this Scott 2 should appear between John and David. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, first initially list is 4 is a size, and these are the 4 elements: John, David, Scott, and Smith. And then I have removed one element, that is Scott, and I have found the size and 3. And these are the list: John, David, and Smith, because Scott is removed. And then I have inserted one more value called Scott 3 here, and then it gives us 4 as a size. And then I have again printed the list. Again it gives John, Scott 2, David, and Smith. So now Scott is added between John and David. So in whichever place, if you want to add a new element in between any of these elements, we can still add them. Okay, but the syntax is we need to follow this. So the first, if I say only add, that will be added new element at the end of the array list. But when you say specifically one index number, so it will go and store that value in that particular location. Okay, that's the difference. So now we have seen multiple operations, like how to declare an array list, how to add elements, how to find the size, how to remove elements, how to insert a new element in the middle of array list, and how to read the value. So here I have just a list here. So that means it is printed all the values which are present in array list. So I can also read individual values one after another. So if you want to read individual values, we can write a for loop. Okay, so just like how we have read values from array, normal array, by using enhanced for loop. So here also we can just use enhanced for loop to read individual values. Okay, so let me just show you how to read these values by using a loop statement. Read values from array list using for loop. So here I'm writing a enhanced for loop. So for colon, so what is the name of array list? List is the name of array list. I can just say list. Now this for loop, right? So read each and every value one after another. So first it will read the one value, second go for next, 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 till it will reaches the end. All values will be read one after another. So here every time it will read one value. So what is the type of that value? String. So we can say a variable here. Let's say string called s. Now s contains the value exactly. So we can just print that value here. System dot out dot println. I'll just say yes. That's it. Okay. So when I run this, it will print all the values one by one. So these are the values. Fine. So this is how we can work with the array list. Suppose we had different data types. So in those cases, how we can work. So let us see here. I will just disable this and enable the first one. Okay. Now this contains different data type of values. Now let's see. I will add also different types. So here I will add a number, and here I will add a character. Let us say A. This is a character. Okay. Now we have a string, a number, a character. So now let's run this. Okay. So this for loop will fail. I'll tell you why it get failed. First, let us see other operations. I have just commented this one. Okay. Now run as Java application. Now you can see here. Just observe the output. So initially I have 6 elements, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. So 6 is the size. And then here printed size of array is printed as a 4, but 6 here because we added these two. And next these are the elements. 6 elements we have printed in the list. And then before removing, this is the element. After removing, these are the elements. And then again I have inserted one more element for 2. Then finally these are the elements. Okay. And Uroshi is asking question, what if the elements have different data types? Nothing will happen. So if I see this example, so I have different elements, different data type of elements. Now the same methods again will work exactly the same. At the time of insertion, you can just provide index number. If it is a string, put in the double quotations. If it is a number, just remove the double quotations. I can just add like that. Okay. But in for loop, this is very important. You need to focus on. So now this for loop contains so now this array contains multiple elements, multiple data type of elements, right? But if I read this one by one, so that element can be any data type, but we cannot put this in string now. So we need to store this variable should be able to store multiple type of values, multiple data type of values. Then in Java we have a object type. Object is another kind of a type, like a string. So if I say object type, so this variable can store any data type of element, any type of element. Even this object type we can use like a normal variables also. So for example, when I say int a, I can store only integer values. If I say character c, I can store only characters. Suppose if I say object of some x, I can store any type of values. We can store integers here, we can store characters, we can store string. So this variable x can hold any kind of data type of value. Okay. So the same thing I can still use it here. So I can just say variable as an object. Now this can hold any kind of element. So now along with the strings, it will also store numbers and decimals or characters, everything. Now I can just print this value as it is. Now we can see run as Java application. Now we can print these values. Okay, so all the values it is printed. Now you can see here. Along with the strings, it is also printed number and also character. Okay, so if you have multiple data types, if you want to read those by using for loop, then create a variable of object type. So object type variable can hold object type variable can hold any type of values. Okay, so is it clear everyone? So this is a more interesting thing. Okay, so Oroshi, is it clear? Is this your question asking? Okay, so these are all different things we can perform on ArrayList. Okay, so we have seen how to declare ArrayList, how to add elements, how to find size, how to remove elements, how to inserting elements, and then how to read values by using for loop also. Fine. So this is all about ArrayList. So when we need to go for ArrayList, there are two situations. One is if you don't know the size of ArrayList, and second thing is if you have different type of elements, then we can go for ArrayList. Okay, one more important thing here. You will also, as I said, if I say a variable called as an integer array, suppose if I say here int array is equal to new int, and if I say 5 here, this is a normal array of type is int. So in this array I can store only integers, right? Only integers. Suppose if I say like object a is equal to new object array 5. Now what happens is This array can also have multiple types, because I said object, right? This is another way of using normal array with different data types. Okay, this is another way of using normal array with different data types. But if I say normal data type here, it can store only those elements, but it cannot hold different type of elements. But here, when I say object type of array, this array can hold different data types now. Okay, so this array can hold a different data type. So you can also go with this. If I don't want to use array list, you can still go for normal array, but you can define that array with the object type. Okay, so this is also possible. Fine. So this is all about array list concept in Java, right? So let's go for next concept. So guys, are you clear this? Please confirm on the chat window how to use array list. So the next one is let's go for HashMap. This is another kind of collection we have in Java. Let's see what is a HashMap and how to use it. HashMap. Okay, so HashMap is also a kind of data structure in Java, but here we need to store elements in different format. Okay, so let us see what is HashMap and how the values will be stored into HashMap. So first let us see the structure. Suppose I have data like this. This is my data. I have a let's say EMP ID and EMP name, employee name and employee ID. So let's say employee ID is something like this, 102, 103 and so on. So employee names are something like this. Okay, this is my data. So if you want to store this data, okay, in a variable, so normal data types cannot be worked like array list or int character. These are all normal data types. We cannot store these kind of data. So if you observe this data, here this is a combination like 101 and x, 102 and y, 103 and z. So actually this is a complete data, right? So and so employee ID name is this one, and so employee ID and name is this one. This is a complete data. And here this kind of data we cannot store by using a normal primitive data types or array list or any other data type. Only with the hash map it is possible. Only with the hash map it is possible. So in hash map the data will be stored in uh, key value format. Let's say key and the value. These are the two important things we need to understand. So hash map contains a key and their value. Key and their value. So here 101, 102, 103 are called as a keys. These are all called as a keys. And x, y, z, these are all called as the values of those particular keys. So 101 is a key, the value of key is x. The 102 is a key, the value of 102 is y. So 103 is another key, the value of 103 is 2. So key and the value. So this is called as a pair. Pair is nothing but a combination of key and a value is called as a pair. So in HashMap, the data will be stored in the key value pair format, key value format. So these are all keys and these are all values. Now in ArrayList, these keys are unique. We cannot duplicate these keys. Keys are unique. If I say 101, we cannot enter 101 again. This is a unique. But EMP names, the values can be duplicated. Okay, so keys are unique, but the values of those keys can be duplicated. Suppose the same name can be repeated multiple times, right? But whichever column we specify as a key, that should be unique. Should not be any duplicate values, whereas the values can be duplicated. Okay, this is how we can store. Now we will see different operations on a hash map, how we can store this data and all. So in hash map also we can do certain operations. First, let's see how to declare an hash map. Same operations whatever we did for array list, same thing we can do here also. So declare hash map, how to declare an hash map, and then once we have declared this hash map, then also we can here we cannot find any size. Okay, but here we can remove some elements. So we can just remove elements from HashMap, remove elements from HashMap, remove elements from HashMap, and then we can just read values from HashMap. We cannot say values here, we can just say pairs. Read pairs from HashMap. Okay, so these are the operations we can see. How can we how to declare an HashMap and how to remove elements from HashMap. After declaration, we can add the elements. Add elements to HashMap. So how to declare an HashMap? How to add elements to HashMap? Elements in the sense pairs, key and value, and then how to remove elements, and then read pairs from HashMap. So let us see these operations in HashMap. So in just like ArrayList, here also HashMap can be created in two different ways. Okay, so the first declaration will be like this. Let me create one more class. I will name it as HashMap demo. Let's take main method, finish. Okay, so here also we can define HashMap in two different ways. One is, okay, we can write like this. Let me just show you just a second. Okay, so first syntax is declaration. Let's say declaration. So we have to declare like this: HashMap, and just take a variable hm equal to a new HashMap. Okay, this is a way of declaration. So hm equal to new HashMap, and here close brackets. Here close brackets. Now HashMap we need to import from java.util. Okay, now imported. So this is a generic syntax. Now this HashMap can hold the values of key and pairs, and key can be any data type and value also can be any data type. But here if you observe, keys are numbers and values are strings, right? So if I say this particular syntax, we can store pairs in any data type. So keys are can be suppose this key is integer, this key is string, this key is another data type, but these are all unique. Okay, you should not duplicate this. And values also can be any data type, x, y, z, or anything, or number, you can say anything. But in this context, in this particular data, we don't follow this structure. Suppose if you want to tell clearly like what is the key data type and what's the value data type, we should follow another syntax. So this is another syntax. And I say here HashMap. Here again hm is equal to new HashMap. Okay, so here additionally we need to specify the data type of key and value. Here we need to add angular brackets. So first integer, so means the key is integer type and value is a string type, so comma and string. So first data type is representing the key and the second one is representing the value, and same thing again we need to add it here. Okay, so now this is a HashMap which is created. All keys will be integer type and the values will be string type. Okay, especially when you write when you work with HashMap, we don't prefer to use this notation because HashMap is especially used for key value pairs. When you see key value pairs, data will be like this. We cannot have multiple different data type normally. Okay, but if you have that, you can go for the first notation. So this is your declaration of HashMap. Either you can go for this one or this one. Okay, based upon the data, you need to decide which data type I have to write for key and which data type I have to write for the value. So that you need to decide based upon your data. Now let's see how to add values. Adding, we don't say values here, okay, because pair, we can call it as a pair. Pair is nothing but a key and a value combination. We cannot call as a pair. This combination is called as a pair. Okay, so now adding pairs. into HashMap, adding pairs into HashMap. So if you want to add pairs into HashMap, in ArrayList we have a add method, right? But here we have a put method. When I say hm dot put, this is a method I have to use. Hm dot put, here we need to say key and the value. So let's say 101 is my key because that is the integer type, and the value I can write in string format. Let's say John. So this is one pair, and similarly we can also add a few more pairs. Okay, so let's say this is 2 and this is 3, this is 4, and the keys are unique, but the values can be duplicated. So here I can say Scott, here I can say David, here I can say Smith. Okay, I think one more I will add, so I'll say Pin. Okay, so now I have added 5 pairs into HashMap. Now let us print this. If you want to print this, you can just say system.out.println. I'll just say h. Okay, so system.out.println h. So when I run this, so it will give you data like this. So we can also read these values by using for loop. Okay, I'll tell you in the last. So here, these are the values we have inserted into HashMap. Then we can print like this. 101 is John, 102 is Scott, 103 is David, 104 is Smith, 105 is Kim. So this is the data currently we have in the HashMap. Suppose I want to remove one of the pair from this list. Okay, so how we can remove that? So here I will remove it. Remove a pair from HashMap. Remove a pair from HashMap. How to remove the pair from HashMap? Very simple. hm dot remove. Okay, and here is specify the key number, right? Key number. So based on the key, the value will be removed. Let's say I want to remove 103. Here we don't have index concept. Okay, we have only key and value concept. We don't have index concept. So here I just say 101 is a key, and based upon the key, that value, the pair will be removed. So 103 will be removed. So after remove, I'll just print the list again. So here, after removing the pair, I'm just printing the list again. Now execute this. Now you can see here. 103 I have removed, so rest of the values are printed here. 101, 102, 4 and 5, 3 already removed here. Okay, so this is how we can do certain operations on HashMap. We can declare HashMap, we can add the values or add the pairs into HashMap, and we can print it, and we can remove something from the HashMap and all. But in the middle we cannot add anything. Okay, but if we want to use hm.put again, it will add a new element at the end, because here we don't have index concept. So that's the reason we cannot insert any element in the middle. But in ArrayList we have index concept. So by using specific index number, index always represents the location. So by using index number, we are able to insert the value in ArrayList. But here we don't have any index number, so we cannot insert any value in the middle of HashMap. Okay, now I'll show you how to read these values by using for loop. That's more important. Okay, how to read values by using a for loop. Let's see. So here I will write one for loop, and before writing the for loop, we need to understand a few terms here. Let me just write it again. So currently this is my data, right? So I have data like this. This is let's say this is EMP ID. This is our EMP name. Let's say I have 101, 102, 103, and so on, and X, Y, Z, and so on. Okay, this is currently HashMap which contains this data. Now, if you want to read this data, in the for loop, we need to use special classes. Okay, so what are those classes is, first one, HM is a HashMap name I have given, right? HM dot entry set. When I say hm dot entry set of method, when I say this method, so what this will do is hm dot entry set. Hm dot entry set means this will return the complete pair. Okay, this will return a pair. That means which contains ID as well as name. ID as well as name. Okay, this will return the pair. Now, after this returns the pair, if you want to store this pair in a variable, suppose this is return some pair, I want to store this pair in a variable. Let's say variable name is m. So what kind of variable it should be is, this should be map dot entry type. Map dot entry. This is the type of this variable. In the previous example, we used object, right? Similarly, here, if you want to store ID and name, a pair, into a variable, that variable must be map.entry type. The variable is map.entry type. So now this M is contains a ID and name, both. Two things it contains. One is ID and name. Now from this M, if you want to extract this ID and name separately, we use a method called m.getKey. m.getKey, and this method will retrieve ID separately. And if you want to get this name, m.getValue. m.getValue. So this method will return this name separately. So these are the two important methods we need to understand here. So again, I'll repeat. hm.entrySet will return a pair from HashMap. And if you want to store that pair in a variable, that variable must be map.entry. Map.entry. And this M contains a pair, right? ID and name. If you want to extract them separately, we use m.getKey method to capture the ID, key value, and m.getValue, which will capture the value of that particular ID. So these are the methods we need to remember when you read the pairs from HashMap by using for loop. Now I will use a for loop by using this. Let's see. So here I'm reading pairs using for loop. Okay, let's see that. Okay, so here I will just write for, as I said, first thing, right? hm.entrySet will read the one pair. So I will write here hm.entrySet. Okay, every time it will read one pair, every time. So colon. I want to store this entry set. Okay, in a variable. Let us say m. And what kind of variable it should be now? It should be map.entry type. Map.entry. Sorry. Let me write clearly. Map.entry. Map.entry. This is how we need to write. So hm.entrySet always read one pair every time and store that into variable. So that variable must be map.entry type. That variable must be map.entry type. Now inside this array, inside this loop, we need to extract a key and value separately from this variable. Suppose if I say m.getKey, so that will give you the key, and I will append it here again m.getValue. Just append this, okay, m.getValue. Now put everything in the system.out.println. System.out.println. m.getKey, just I given some space, and m.getValue. So this for loop every time will repeat. So first time it will get the first pair and store that into this, and second time it will get second pair, again store into this, third pair, fourth pair, and so on. So here if you have different data types, there also we don't find any issue because we don't say any specific data type here. Okay, so that's the reason. So run this application now. You can see here. So this is a one format of printing HashMap, and this is another format of printing this HashMap. Okay, fine. So this is how we need to read the pairs from HashMap. This is how we need to read pairs from a HashMap. So we have seen about how to declare hash map, how to add elements and how to remove elements, and then how to read page from hash map. Okay, this is important concept again in the Selenium WebDriver. We use this hash map for doing data driven test case. We have provided, we'll add some different username and passwords in the array list, and we'll test application by using different usernames and passwords. So in those cases, we can just add data in hash map like this. Okay, that's a real-time use case. So guys, are you clear how to use this hash map and all the methods? Okay, so please confirm on the chart window if you are clear, then I will move to next concept. Fine. So next one is the last concept in Java is JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, JDBC. So JDBC is a concept in Java, so by which we can just work with the database. Okay, I'll just talk about database a little bit here. JDBC means Java Database Connectivity. Okay, this is the full form of JDBC. So by using this concept, we can interact with the databases through Java program. So let us see few important points about database and everything, and then let's see the context. Okay. So here we need to talk about a few points about databases and SQL and the SQL commands and all. So what JDBC will do is, so we have a database. So why do we need to use database? Because normally any application we have a front end. So front end means a GUI. So user will interact always with the GUI. So let us say I have form here. You need to fill all the details and you click on the submit button here. What this data exactly will store? The data will exactly stored in the backend systems or as a database. So what the database contains? It contains multiple tables, right? So data will be stored in the form of tables. So whatever operation you perform through application, everything will happen at the database side. So sometimes we submit data, sometimes we delete the data, sometimes we retrieve the data. So all these actions will be happen on the backend or database side. So in Java, we can interact with this database. Here application is interacting with the database. How application is interacting with the database? Internally, the developer has created certain program here. Okay, so that program will automatically execute. When I submit here, what happens is internally this program will execute. This is called JDBC program. This is called as a JDBC program. Inside this, they will write some SQL commands. So SQL commands. What is SQL here? So people, we don't know about database and database background. These terms are new for you. So please focus on this. So database is an area or a location where all our data will be stored. This is a basically storage area. This is a storage area, and data will be stored in the tabular format. Now, when I submit a data from the application, or sometimes if you retrieve or delete some data, internally JDBC program will be executed. That is already developed by the developer for this application. Now, in that particular JDBC, they will write SQL commands. So, what is a SQL command? If you want to communicate with this database, we need a command, we need a language. So if you want to communicate with any database, it can be Oracle, it can be SQL Server, DB2, there are n number of databases available in the market. So if you want to communicate with this database, we need a language. Okay, that's called as a SQL, structure query language. So by using this language, we can interact with the database. We can execute certain commands and perform certain operations. Like we can create a table, we can insert the data, we can delete the data, and we will select the data, we'll update the data. All these operations can be done by using SQL language. Okay, this is a concept of database and SQL. But what is JDBC here means? JDBC is a program, and here we will write certain code and along with the SQL command that will perform actions on the database directly. It will directly interact with the database. Here JDBC come into the picture. Okay, and application will interact with this JDBC. So developer will write program like that. but we don't know what is happening in the backend always. We always see the front end. We submit the data, we select the data, and all the stuff we do from the front end application. But this is how backend happens. Now, let's discuss about this part now. How we can work with the database by using this JDBC. Okay, because in the WebDriver also we need to perform a certain kind of database testing, because we need to read the database and we'll pass the data to the application, and we do certain actions on the application. We need to verify whether the data is updating, deleting, selecting in the database or not. So that we need to verify. So that's the reason we are going to learn about JDBC concept. Now here we need to know basic things about SQL. SQL contains again some sub languages like DDL commands, DML commands, and DCL commands and TCL commands, and different sub languages is divided. And data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, transaction control language, and every category there are certain commands. Here we have a create command, alter command, drop command, and under DML we have a select command, insert command, update command. So like this, each and every category there are n number of commands we have. So if you learn all these commands, you can easily work with the database. But as a automation or normal test engineer, you have to know the database. At least one database you should be familiar with. So in interview also, you should have a skills on. They will also ask questions on SQL. So they will ask you create some queries, and they will give some questions, and you need to, they will ask you to write a queries. More important. So if you don't know about SQL previously, it is completely new for you. So I will just share a link. I already have recorded sessions for all SQL, complete SQL. Almost it is 8 to 10 recorded sessions, so which are already available in YouTube. So I'll just send it that link. You can watch those videos. So that will be enough for you. Okay. So everything is freely available. So I will also give some links, my blog links. You can go through all the queries and FAQs and everything from database side. You don't need to learn anything, and say you don't need to join any other course. So that's all. I'm not more focusing on SQL here because that's a huge concept again. Okay, just I'm giving very high level information about the database. The main intention is the JDBC. Okay, so watch these SQL videos later. Okay, I will just share those videos separately. Now, so here as a test engineer, here we need to main focusing on DML operations. DML commands means sometimes we will insert the data, and sometimes we will update the data, we will delete the data, and sometimes we also select the data from databases. These are all comes under the DML, data manipulation language. So now we will see how we can perform these operations by using JDBC program. Okay. So let's see now. So other commands we don't require because they are all related to database administrators or database creators, and they will create tables and everything. They will manage all the stuff. But only our scope is DML, because we are always deal with the front end application. So only these commands we need to validate. So as a database tester, we do set an operation on the front end and log into the database and execute the SQL command. Whether the data is inserted or table or not, we will verify. So that's a manual testing. So let's see how we can write a JDBC program to perform insert or delete all these operations. Okay. And one more important thing we need to discuss before directly going into the program. Every database is having two components. Every database is having two components. One is we call as a database server. One is database server. So database server means here exact data will be stored. Okay. Every database having two components. One is database server, the other one is a database client. So database server is the area or storage area where exactly the data will be stored. So if you want to install this database server in a machine, you should have a huge space in that. So that's the reason in real time database servers will be in the Linux or Unix somewhere in the remote location. You should not install anything in your local system. So databases always will be there in the remote locations. Now in your system, if you want to communicate with database, if you want to read those tables or see the data, you will install database client. Database client is another client which comes from the database installation. So once you have installed Oracle or SQL Server, whatever database, you will get these two components, database server along with the database client. Suppose if you want to install only server, database server, you can still install. And if you need only client, you can still install. But in the real time, database servers will be there in the remote locations. Those servers will be shared across multiple teams also. Many people will access those servers. But in your local system, in your laptop, you will just install the database client, and through that client, you can just access the remotely available database. Okay, just you can connect to remotely available database and you can access the data and you can work on here. You will have only database client. You don't have a database server. Okay, so any database if you install, you will get these two components: database server, database client. So database server is the area where actually data will be stored, and database client is a software by which we can interact with the database. So suppose if I say Oracle is a database, I will use SQL developer as a client. SQL developer as a client. Okay, so again in the database client we have again command line interface client and GUI client. So we can do command line, we can also do through GUI. So normally when you work on Oracle, we have a SQL plus, right? So when you type, when you open the command prompt, here if I say SQL plus, it will give you SQL prompt here, and where you can execute all your commands, SQL command. This is called as a SQL client. And along with this, we have a client called as SQL developers. If I observe here, this is our SQL developer client. This is also by default come with your database installation. You don't need to install this separately. Okay, this is SQL developer. So now I'm using Oracle as a backend database, and this SQL developer is a front-end client. So through this client, I can give all the commands to the Oracle database. Okay. Now, if you do manual testing, you use this particular tool or client by which we can connect to the remotely available databases. We can execute all the SQL commands and everything. So first I will show you this before going to the program, because this is also we require. So if you want to connect to remotely available database, now I'm currently using Oracle database, which is already installed in my system. So if you want to connect to remotely available database, you can just create a new connection here. Create a new, right? So it will give you a new database connection. Okay. Now it will ask you few details here. So you need to provide some connection name. With this name, here it will store in the tree, and username of the database, password of the database, and in which location your database is installed. That is either we can specify computer name or IP address of your computer, not your computer, wherever the database server is installed. So that computer IP or computer name we can specify here. And every database will run on specific port number. So for Oracle, 1521 is a default port number. And every database, especially Oracle database, having this SID, but other databases doesn't have this. So for especially Oracle, we need to provide the either SID or service name, either one of them. And then we can just save this connection here. And every time we can use the same connection by clicking on a connect. Automatically, this will connect to your remotely available database. Okay, so for now I already created a few connections here. Let me just show you properties of this connection. Same thing I have given. So HR is my username password. My Oracle database is installed in my local system. So I just say localhost, or else you can give the computer name or IP address. Then this is a port number, and I have given this is a service name. So these details you will get at the time of installation. Okay. So now when I save this, the connection will be stored here, and when I click on the connect, it will connect to your database. And if you expand this particular tree, let me just expand this. It's a little bit slow. Let me just a second. It's slow. Okay, once you have connected to this particular database, you will see this window. So here we can execute all your SQL commands directly, all select DML commands, DCL, everything we can do here. Okay, So now we can expand this. So it can see all the tables which are already present in this database, right? These are all different tables, countries, department, and everything, student, and everything. And here we can write all our commands. Suppose if I want to see the data which is present in employees table, I can just write a query like this: select star from employees. Okay. When I run this query, it will give you the data which is present inside the employees table. Okay. And if you need to practice this, you should have at least Oracle or SQL Server, any one of the software. Okay. So until unless you have that software, you cannot practice this JDBC. Okay. But Oracle is a little bit complex to install. That is not that much easy. But I will provide some instructions and guide, small document, and along with the software and everything. You guys can try. But I'll suggest to have a SQL Server instead of Oracle. If you find any SQL Server software freely available, you can just install the SQL Server and you can try with that. That's my suggestion. If you know about Oracle, how to install and everything, you can still do that. No problem. Because Oracle installation itself will take 1 hour to 1.5 hours. So it's a very large kind of stuff. Okay. But even if you remember this concept, that's more than enough until unless you practice. Because I will just tell you 1 or 2 examples. So just remember those examples. Whenever you have a requirement to work on JDBC, you can just follow the same thing. That is also fine. Okay. That is up to you guys. I can provide you a small document and installer. You can try installing if you are able to do. But if you face any issues in the middle, that's a little bit difficult to fix those issues. These are all related to administration tasks. Okay. So just focus on this. Next, if I execute this query, now it will give you data here, right? So this is a client, UI client, by which we can interact with our database. Now I will do all these actions. So I can just insert the data, I can update, and I can delete all the kinds of operations I can perform by using this client. Okay. The same thing I can also do through JDBC program. So Java program. Now let us see how we can do that. So for now, I'm just minimizing this. So let us discuss about this JDBC, how to use this. So if you want to write a JDBC Java program, we need a prerequisite. We need to download database driver. Download database driver. So what is this database driver means? So by default, there are n number of databases are available in the market like SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, n number of databases, right? So if you want to interact with this database, we need special kind of classes. Oracle having special classes, and for DB2 is having special classes, SQL Server is having special classes, and so on. So whichever database we are trying to interact with, we need to have that particular driver. So driver is nothing but this is a kind of a .jar file. .jar file. Okay, so that we need to download. So currently we are working with Oracle, so we need to download Oracle JDBC driver. So we need to just type about Oracle JDBC driver download. If I just type in the Google, it will go to particular website. And if you need specific version, you can just specify also. Oracle, I'll say 12c is the latest version of Oracle, right? So now it will go to this particular website. Go to Oracle website. So here they will provide you all the drivers for their Oracle database. Now you can see here there are multiple jars have been provided here. There are little older versions, and OJDBC.jar is the latest version of jar file. Object database connectivity. OJDBC means object database connectivity. So this jar file we need to download if you want to work with the Oracle. And similarly for other databases also we have different drivers. So those drivers we need to download. So that's the first prerequisite. So I already downloaded this jar. So I'll just keep it in my C drive. I'll also send you drivers for other databases. Okay. Don't worry. So here I have drivers, DB driver. So here I kept my OJDBC7.jar. So this is a driver. Keep that in some location here. Okay. The first thing. Once we have downloaded this jar, what we need to do with this jar? We need to add this jar, add driver jar to your project, which is created in your Eclipse. So how to add this? Very simple. Open your project. This is your project you created. Under this you are doing everything, right? So right click on your project, go to your properties. Now here you can see Java build path. Okay. Under Java build path you can see multiple tabs here. So go to libraries tab and here click on external jars and select your jar file. Whichever jar you have, just select that one. DB driver, this is a jar file. Open. Now that will appear here and then apply OK. That's it. Now as soon as you added the jar file, that will be appear under reference libraries. So what is this jar file means? This contains multiple classes, so many classes and methods by which we can interact with our database, Okay, so by default Java doesn't have those classes. We need to download this driver and this driver contains those classes. Okay, so this is the prerequisite, or we can say a step. These are the prerequisites. Fine. So once you have this, now we are ready to write our Java program. So guys, are you clear so far what I am telling? Okay, please confirm on the chat window. So guys, we don't have any database background. If you are completely new for this, you have to watch my other videos. Okay, SQL videos I will share later because there is no other way. This is a mandatory concept. Okay, because this is a huge concept. We cannot cover this complete stuff in within 1 hour. Or DML, DCL, all commands will take a lot of time. So that are again different sessions we need to take. Okay, I'll just share those videos. Please watch and learn. Okay, fine. So now here I have done my setup part. Now I'm ready to write our Java program. So here I will write my JDBC program, which will interact with so same thing, whatever commands I'm doing here, executing, the same commands I will execute through my Java program. Okay, so instead of doing here, I will do from Java program, from my Eclipse. Same thing. Fine. So let's see what are all classes we have to do this JDBC. So very simple steps we need to follow. I'll tell you what are the steps we need to do. If you follow these steps, very simple. So step 2, write JDBC program. So if you remember these steps, it's very simple. The first step is we need to create a connection. What is this create a connection? Let us see. So here I have a database. This is my database. Here all tables are present. So here I will write my Java program. Let's say this is our Eclipse. Okay, this is our Eclipse. So now, first of all, if you want to communicate with these two, we need a connection, right? So here we have a connection class, which is provided by the JDBC driver, by which we need to establish a connection between these two. So if you want to establish connection, we have to use connection class. Connection class. The name itself is a connection class. This is the first step. First step is we need to establish the connection. If you want to communicate with these two, we have to have a connection, right? Simple. If you want to go from one place to another place, we need a road. So we can travel on the road, right? Similar way, here we have a two component. Database is one component, Eclipse is another component. So if you want to communicate with these two, we need a connection. So this connection can be created by using connection class. That's the first step. How to create and all we will see later. First, please focus on the very high level steps. First, we need to we need to establish a connection between Eclipse as a database. Here Eclipse works as a client again. So between Eclipse and database, we use to establish a connection here by using connection class. That's the first step. Second step, once we establish the statement, once we establish the connection, we need to create a statement, create a query or statement. So what we will execute against the database normal SQL queries, right? So if you want to execute the query this database, we need to prepare one SQL statement here. So here we need to write a statement or query. like select or delete or update anything. So this is the second step. So this statement we need to create by using statement class. We have direct class called as a statement. So by using that statement class, we will create a SQL query. That's the second step. Third step. So now we have established the connection. We already have this query. So what is the next step? We need to execute this query through this connection, right? So now the third step is execute this query, send this query through this connection. There's a third step. So here we have a different method called as a execute method. Statement class object dot execute method. So here we need to pass that particular query. So this method will execute this statement through this connection against the database. Okay. So then finally fourth step. So this one, once we create the statement, then execute the statement, or execute query. And fourth statement is just close the connection. Once we have job is done, once we have executed this query, we can close this connection. So fourth step is close connection. Close connection. That's it. These are the only 4 steps we need to do if you want to interact with the database. Very simple. I'll tell you step by step. Create a connection, then create a query or statement, and send this query through this connection by using this third step. Execute a statement and then close the statement. Okay. Now I will implement these 4 steps one by one. So let us see how we can do that. So now I'm going to create a program, new class. I'm just saying this as a JDBC example 1. JDBC example 1. Let's take a main method, finish. Okay, so these are the 4 steps. I'm going to write it now. Okay, first create connection, create a query or statement, execute the statement, and close connection. So first step, we need to create a connection. So how to create a connection? So if you want to create a connection with the database, we need to use a connection class object. So I said connection class is available, right? So that class we need to available. So these classes comes only when you add this jar file. If I don't add this jar file, you will not find this packages and all. Okay. So connection is a class name, con, this object name equal to, and here we have a special class called as a driver manager dot a get connection. So driver manager is a static class which contains a method. Driver manager is a predefined class again. The class contains a get connection is a static method. So static methods directly we can call by using class name, right? So driver manager dot get connection. Here we need to pass a URL, means a connection parameters of the database. So what are the connection parameters? Suppose if you want to connect to the database in the client itself, I have provided some details, right? Like username, password, host name, port number, and all, right? So these details again we need to pass through program. So that's called as a connection string or URL. But here this URL will be changed one database to another database. The format syntax will be changed. And if it is an Oracle database, the syntax will be different. I'll just copy the syntax here. The URL of this Oracle database is this one. So I'll tell you what is this one. JDBC colon Oracle colon thin colon @ till here same constant. We should not change that. And here your machine name. So wherever your database server is located, that IP address or machine name you have to provide. If your database is installed in your local system, you have to use localhost as a name. And colon 1521 is a port number slash. This is your service name. PDB overcrl is service name. So till here one parameter. Now this is username. This is your password. So this is called as a complete URL from here to here. And based upon this connection details, this connection class will establish the connection with the database. Okay, now we need to also import this connection class from java.sql. Java.sql is a predefined package, from which package we need to import this. Okay, and this driver manager.get connection will throw some exceptions, so we need to add this throw declaration. So SQL exception with may throw. Fine. So this is the first statement which will establish the connection with the database. Okay, with this we have achieved the first step. How to create a connection? Connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection. So few things you need to remember here. Okay, So we cannot go in deeper and we cannot get everything because these are all predefined stuff which is already implemented by somebody else. So they have put a lot of effort to design these methods and classes. We should know at least how to use those methods and where to use those methods. Okay. So connection con equal to driver manager dot get connection method, which will establish the connection between our client, means Eclipse program and database server. So by using these details. So first step is done. Now the second step. So we need to create our query or statement. So let's see how to create the statement or query. So here I will just take I need to make use of statement class. Statement. Let's say stmt some object name is equal to, and this statement we need to execute through this connection later, right? So we need to associate this connection object and statement object. So what I should do is I'll say con dot create a statement. This is how we need to use create a statement. So I'll tell you what this will do. So statement class we need to import from java.sql. So this statement we need to execute through this connection later. So that's the reason we need to establish, we need to associate this statement with this connection. So that's the reason we say con dot create statement. Con dot create statement. This method will associate this statement with this connection object. Okay, now we need to write a statement. So by using this stmc is referring the statement. Remember this. Okay. Now I will create a string variable. Let's say string s is equal to, in the double quotations I will write a statement. So for example, first I will show you how to do insert, update, delete and all. So for example, let's say here I have a student table. Select a star from student. Okay, currently I have few records, SIDs and S names, right? So in this table, currently I have 4. I want to insert a new record in this table. Okay, I want to insert a 5th record in this table. So what I will do is I will write a query like this. So here insert command I have to use. So in SQL, insert will be written like this: insert into table name, that is student, values in the brackets. We need to write all the values. Let's say 105 is my ID. So here 104 is already there. 2, 3, 4, 5 is there, right? 1 is not there, so I will just add 1 here. Okay, and Smith 1 is there, but Smith is not there. David is there, XYZ. Okay, Scott is not there, so I will just add Scott. Okay, that's it. And here it will not allow double quotes. We need to use always single quotes. In database, we always use single quotes. Double quotes will not allow. Okay, so this is your insert into student values. This is your student ID, and this is your student name, and quotations close and semicolon. So here we need to start quotations. Here it is end. Okay, this is your insert query. If you execute this insert query directly here, it will insert the new record in this table. But instead of executing here, the client, we are executing through Java program. Okay, so this is your insert query that will insert 101 record with the Scott name. Currently, I don't have this record here. So now we have created the query or statement by using these two statements. What is the next step? We need to execute the statement. So let's see how to execute the statement. Execute the statement or query. How to execute the statement? So we can execute the statement by using this stmt object dot execute query. There is a method called execute query. So this method will execute this particular query. But how this method will know the query? We have to pass that variable called s. So currently s contains this query, right? So if I pass, you can also write this entire query here in the brackets. That is also there. Instead of creating a new variable here, we can write the complete query inside this bracket also directly. But here, just for the easy purpose, I can just store this entire query in a variable, and then I have passed this variable here. And that's it. So this will execute this particular command in your database. And after that, fourth step, we need to close the connection. So if you want to close the connection, very simple. Con is a object which is referring to the connection, right? So con dot close, that's it. This is a JDBC program. So after completion of this, I will just write a simple message, system dot out dot println program is completed. Because after completion of this, I can just get some message. I will get and check the database. So first we created a connection to the database, and then we created a query and run that query through connection, and then close the connection. 4 steps. Okay. Now let's run this code. So before this, in the database, I don't have a 101 record here. Okay, 101 record is not there here. So now I will execute this program, run as Java application. Okay, now you can say program is completed. Now you can go and execute the same query again in the client. Okay, now you can see here there is no another new record is inserted here, 101 and Scott. Okay, so the same query, insert query can execute from here, and through JDBC program I have inserted. Okay, so like this we can also execute other commands. So for example, I want to update the record. So let's say here currently 105 is Smith 1. Okay, so I want to update his name as a Kim. So I want to change this name as a Kim. So how we can update this? So now I will just comment this. Instead of writing insert query, I will write update query. So here I will write update. So what you need to update? Update 105 record name, right? So update student, that is table name, and set s name is equal to, I want to update as a Kim. So Kim is there, Kim not there. So Kim. So if I leave this query as it is like this, what happens is, quotations close and semicolon. If I leave this query as it is, update student set s name is equal to Kim. If I leave this query as it is, what happens is, it will update complete table, all the names as a Kims. It will update all the names. But I don't want to update all the names. I want to update only this particular SID. So we need to write a condition also, where SID is equal to 105. Okay, so these queries are not case sensitive. You can write in lowercase letters or you can write uppercase letters. Okay, that is up to you. So where SID is equal to 105. Now here what happens is, when I execute this query, it will check this condition. So wherever it find SID is equal to 105, where that S name will be changed as a Kim. It will update S name as a Kim. So currently 105 record S name is Smith 1. Now after executing of this query, now again same S is passed here, only the query is changed, everything is same. Now when I run this program, if I check here, 105 is name is changed with the Kim. Now let us run this code again. This is update query. Okay, done. So now again go and execute this query. Now you can see 105 is updated with the Kim. This is update query. We have seen insert and update. Suppose if you want to delete this record, some record, let's say 101, 2, 3, 4 we have. So I want to delete 105 record. I want to delete 105 record. So how we can delete? Now I'll write a delete query, commenting this. Instead of this update, I will write delete query now. So simple. Command is delete. You guys should learn these commands, very important. Delete, here I am writing very simple commands, but you will have join, subquery. There are a lot of things in databases. So here delete a student, delete table name, where SID is equal to 105. So what I'm saying here is delete the record from student table where it finds SID is equal to 105. If I don't specify this where condition, if I say only delete student, it will delete all the records from the student. Okay, so I don't want to delete all the records. I want to delete only the record 105. Okay, so let's execute this code and see. Run as Java application. Now it is done. Now go here, execute the command again. So we could not see 105 record here. That is deleted. Okay. So these are all few commands we have, like how we can do insert, update and delete. So most important action is select. So select is little bit different command when you compare with insert, update, delete. So I'll tell you what is the difference. So here we have seen update, insert and delete command, right? So these commands is one directional command. So for example, when I execute my insert command, what happens is it will go and inserted a record in the database, but it is not returning anything for us. It is go and executing here itself. It's not giving anything for us back. Now if I say update also, it will go and update the existing record here, but it is not returning anything for us. Even in the delete command also, it will go and delete the record in the database. This is also not giving anything back. But when you execute your select command, what happens is it will go and execute in the database, but it will retrieve the data from the database and provide the data. So select command is little different. Okay, so other three commands will work only one direction, but select command will go and execute here and pull the data and give the data to the client. So it will do select different task. So we can handle this in different ways. So especially for select, we use another class. So along with this connection class, statement class and execute method, along with these classes, we need to use additional class called as a record set, because the select command is giving back the data, right? The data we can store in some variable, and then we can print the data in my Eclipse console window. So to do that, we need to use a special class called as a record set. So I'll tell you this how we can do select in another example. It's very simple, and I'll finish it another 5 minutes. Okay, so I'll just copy the same example again. JDBC example 1. I'll make it as a 2 now. JDBC example 2. So let's have everything is same, and this query will be changed. I'll remove this query, and instead of insert, I will write select command. Okay, but these things a little bit changes. I'll tell you now. So again, same thing. Again, we'll repeat. Connection is established. Now statement creation is done. Now STMC, here we need to write a query. Select query have to write. So let me write a select query here. And this time I will get the data from employees table. Let's say I have employees table, right? So we have this much of data. So from this employees table, I want to retrieve employee ID, first name and last name. I want to retrieve only these three. If you want, you can retrieve all the data, but I don't require all the stuff. I can just retrieve first three columns of data: employee ID, first name and last name, and I will print them in my console window in Eclipse. So how to write the query now? Instead of star, I need to specially specify the column names. Let's say employee underscore ID, comma, last name or first name, comma, last name. And if you want to retrieve specific columns, we need to write like this. Specific columns we have to mention, and execute this query. Now it will give you only three columns of data. So the same select query I will write in Eclipse here. Okay. So this semicolon should be removed here. Okay. So this is our select query. Now very important here. This step is very important. So previously we have executed only insert, update, delete. So that's a one directional query. It will not return anything. So it is executed successfully. But now if I execute this query here, this execute query will give you some data back, right? So that data we have to store somewhere. So where we need to store the data? So the data should be stored in a variable. Let's create a variable called rs, and the type is result set. Result set. This is also a special class we have to use when you get the data from the database. Otherwise, not required. For insert, update, delete, we don't require this. Because why we need to use this? Because this will return the data from the database. So result set is a special class which is import from java.sql. Now this rs contains all the data which is returned by this query. Okay, so this is the additional step we need to do. So result set, instead of instead of executing normal insert, update, delete, the select command will retrieve the data from the database. So we need to store the data in a variable. Now I want to read this data from rs, and then I want to print in my console. So how we can do that? So if you want to do that, I will write a small for loop here, okay, to get the data. each and every, like we have a three kinds of data here: id, first name and last name, right? So what I can do is I will write a simple while loop. Why I am writing while loop here? I told you one thing when I explained about while loop. If you, when do we need to go for loop, when do we need to go for while loop? So if you want to read something, if you don't know how many records you have, then you go for while loop. If I know how many times you need to repeat the loop, if you know the size, like how many times you need to repeat the loop, if you know already, then go for the for loop. Okay, but here when I read this, when I execute this query, I don't know how many records I will get from the database, but I need to get the data from the last row, right? Till the last row I need to get the data, but I don't know how many rows we have. So here we cannot write a for loop. So instead I can just write like this: rs dot next. So what this method will do is, rs is a record set which contains the data, result set which contains the data. Dot next method will verify whether the record is present or not. So it will be like this. And let me open one more window. Okay, so for example, in the database we have records like this. Okay, 1, 2 and 3, 4. So what is rs dot next will do is, rs dot next method will go and check if the record is present or not. If it is there, it will get that. After that again it will go second. If it is there, then it will get it again, and it will go and each and every record till last row. Suppose if you could not find any record, then it will become false. Then it will become false. The condition become false, and then the while loop will be exited. Okay, this is how we need to use rs.next. So rs.next, inside this I will write a small piece of code to get the data from this rs. If rs.next returns true, when it returns true, if there is any record present in result set, then it returns true. So as soon as this condition becomes true, then here we need to extract the id, first name, last name separately. So how we can get it? rs dot, okay, first I need to retrieve employee id. Employee id is a number column, numeric column, right? So we have to use method called as a get int. Get int, because int, this is a method we have in Java to read numeric columns. rs.getInt. What is the name of the column? That we have to specify. Exact name we have to specify. Employee underscore id. This is the name of the column. So what this will do is, it will just capture the employee name from this rs and store that into a variable. So here I will define a variable called eid, employee id. I will make this as an int type. Okay, now we capture the employee id. Similarly, we can also capture first name and last name. Let's say rs dot get the string. First name is a string type, so get the string. And what is the column name? First name, first underscore name. And again we need to store this in a variable. Let's say string variable. String. This is the first name. I'll just say f name is equal. Similarly, we need to also write for another statement for last name. So if you want to retrieve all the columns, you need to write for all the statements. Here you need to just say star. It will retrieve all the columns, and for each column you need to write this statement. Okay, this is the second name or last name, get string of last name. Okay, so for only 3 columns I am returning the data here. So I just say rs.getInt. So we need to use special method here based upon the type of column. Most of the times we have only string and int, number column, right? So getInt is only for number column, retrieve the number column. Get string is used for retrieving the string column. So now eid, fname, lname contains actual values. So I will print here now. System dot out dot println first eid, and then I will give some space, appended by some space, and then first name, and again append some space, and then last name, lname. Okay, fine. So I'll give some space here. Fine. So that's it. So now what happens is, this rs.next will check if record is present or not. If record is present, it will be true, and also it will retrieve the data. and now rs.getInt employee id, rs.get string, rs.get string last name. We are retrieving all three columns values, store that into variable. Now I have printed here. So this loop will repeat till we get all the record from a table. Till end of the row, it will repeat. Suppose in the end, if this particular method doesn't find any record, then it will become false. rs.next will become false, and then while loop will be exited. And then close the connection and say print program is completed. That's all. Okay, so now let's run this code, run as Java application. Now you can see now it prints all the data from database. So how many records we have? So I think 206 is the last record. So if you go and see here, 206 is the last record. Okay. So especially for select statement, we need to write additional class called as a result set. And by using while loop, we can read the data from the database. Okay. So guys, are you clear how to read the data from database and all? Very important concept. Okay. So sometimes we have data in the database and we will use this data as a data driven test. In WebDriver Selenium, I will explain there. Okay, later. These are all just basic concepts we are discussing here. And in the future also these concepts will again repeat and very important. Okay. So please, guys, are you clear? Please confirm in the chat window once. I'll stop for today here. Okay, so that's all. I'll stop it here.